I went out to the backyard the other day and Lily was sitting out visiting with an old friend that I hadn't seen for a long time. And at first I didn't recognize her. And then when I did, I heard myself saying one of those things that parents always say. My goodness, you've grown up since I saw you last. We've all been on the other side of these comments and silently wondered why adults say these strange and obvious things. It's as though they're surprised that your life continued since they saw you last. In part, it's a reflection of how our brains work. We order information in our brain so that we can access it when we need it. I would have taken the knowledge I had about this young person and filed it, so to speak, somewhere like Lily's grade 4 class or soccer team age 9, and there it stays. So when we find ourselves in front of someone, we go to that mental file, we pull it out to remember who they are and how we know them. But if we haven't pulled that file out for 7 years, we may find our perceptions stuck in that place for a moment. This new interaction allows us to update our information so that next time we see this young person, we won't say something silly like I did. I share all this very simplified, unprofessional theory with you to remind us that we have to keep pulling out our assumptions and thoughts out of those files and, new glasses. Remind us that we all have to keep pulling our assumptions and thoughts out of those files with full expectation that everyone and everything is evolving. Nothing stays the same. Nothing is intended to stay the same. The people in Jesus' town made the same mistake of assuming they knew Jesus based on what they'd known about him in the past. They'd known his family, his profession, those things we tend to know about people. But they forgot to wonder what God was up to. What is God doing right now? Because we stabilize our lives by keeping order in our minds, we don't like pulling out files and shredding old ideas in order to put new ones in. It's hard on the brain, it takes energy, and it feels uncomfortable. But if we don't learn to question what God is doing in every person that we meet, if we're not willing to keep pulling out ideas we have stored away, we won't be adding God's activity in this world to our entire thought system. And you can see the problem with that. If we're not seeking to grow in our ability to see the divine in the world, to look for more in the people that we meet and know, we simply will not see God when God is standing right in front of us. So the first thing we learn in this gospel is that God's power to be present and active in others is something we have to assume, that we have to have faith in. We need to participate in this world around us, fully expecting God to be moving humanity towards something, each in our own way. The next and sobering message of this gospel is one that Jesus learned. In that visit, Jesus learned that the power of his divinity depended on the faithfulness of the people around him. Jesus was returning to the people who were most familiar to him, including his own family. He would have wanted to help them, I think, to share his grace and gifts with them, and yet they did not have faith enough to see God in him. So he moved on. And when he gathered the disciples together, he told them, if you go somewhere and tell them of the good news that I've taught you and they don't welcome you or they refuse to hear you, it's okay, I've had that experience too. They're not ready. They can't receive our grace because the grace of Christ requires faith. He doesn't say that Jesus is abandoning these people. He's saying that they can't receive what they offer at this time. Are we listening to what God's doing? Have we been willing to reach into those mental files we have to look at our assumptions and wonder, what is God doing right now? Where is Christ in this moment? If the prophet comes to the door, will we welcome them in and listen? Or will we leave them? Will we have them leave as they shake the dust off their feet? God is moving through this land, speaking to us through the voices of our Indigenous siblings. The Creator is calling us to reconsider our place on earth and in relationship to one another. Prophets are at our doors knocking, telling us to honor the origins of our creation, pressing us to look again at our thoughts, to pull out the files on humanity, the one we made for children of God, and look again. What is God telling us about our human family? During a sacred circle I attended last week, many Indigenous elders shared that children had been coming to members of their communities in their dreams for the past couple of years. The spirits of children were visiting them, and they hadn't known what it meant. And as the graves of the children are found and the truth that all Indigenous and First Peoples of Canada have known begins to be confirmed, grave by grave, the voices of the children speak to us. Archbishop Mark MacDonald said that the voices of these children is prophetic. They pronounce a change that's intended by God, a transformation in how this world lives to how Creator God would have us live. That these children may be the ones to lead us back to healing, healing for our siblings, healing of our relationships, healing of our planet through the wisdom of the elders. And his prayer is that the First Peoples of Canada will be able to withstand the pain of this truth as it is revealed over the next years, to witness the transformation that will come through those who open the door to God's voice and welcome his disciples in. As I said, our family was able to participate in the Turtle Island Healing Walk on Canada Day. 10,000 people gathered together to pray for healing, to hear the drumbeat lift up the spirits of the children who have died and dance in hope for those who have lived. Transformation has begun. This moment is as powerful as Jesus' arrival in Nazareth as the incarnate God. I know you're a people of faith, willing to pull out old ideas, ask questions, re-understand who we are and who we and our first peoples are meant to be together as God's created and beloved. I pray that we continue to look for God in all others, and in doing so, discover the abundance of God's grace. And then when Jesus comes into our midst, may he be amazed by our faith, so that through us and in us, there is no deed of power that he cannot do. Amen.